Welcome to Conversations in Anarchy. Despite it's been about more than a month since Anarchapulco Genesis 2026 has come to a close, we are still looking back to impressions and experience gained there. And this time we're going to be talking about the family camp. And that's why I have invited Miale, that has been the family camp manager this year, and Laine, Laine,
Laine Liberty.
that has Laine Liberty, that has been a good helper of hers during the conference. Welcome, ladies. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
thanks
would
for having
like,
us.
yeah, I would like to start with you introducing yourself to our audience, telling a little bit about yourself, and telling how you came to the family camp this year.
Yeah, so I have been working with families in the realm of freedom, anarchy, unschooling, mental health development for more than 15 years, been an anarchist all of my life. And to me, this is a community that is really worth serving. I've never served Anarchapulco in this way. I've been a guest once many, many years ago. But when I had the opportunity to actually be support in the family camp, and that came up as an opportunity for me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. So yeah, just for me, it's important to give back and to serve and to give support and to be with like-minded families that are in alignment with the same values that I hold. My specialty is working with tweens and teens and young adults, and it's sort of a specialized focused, and it's something I've been doing for years. And I've been talking about freedom and sovereignty and autonomy and mental health in with those age groups, mostly with unschoolers, homeschoolers, and world schoolers. Those are the audience that I normally deal with. And so when I had the opportunity to bring all of those experiences and talents and tools to Anarchapulco, I was honored to be able to do so. Yeah.
Hello, it's good to be here with you ladies today. I'm really excited to share in my experience at Anarchapulco. And a little bit about myself. I'm Miale. I have two children. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. We homeschool together and we live off-grid in the woods in an intentional community called Greenbrier. It's structured around a schoolhouse in the woods where we can come together as a village to share in teaching our children, and they get to grow up alongside one another, guided by their elders, their mentors, their teachers. And it's somewhere that everybody can pitch in and share what their passion is. It's a really neat model, and I'm really grateful to be here. I'm deeply rooted in things like home birth, home education, and getting the children outside and into nature. Most of our days are spent outside, and we like to follow our curiosities and our passions, and whatever that might be in the moment guides our learning experience. So I first heard about Anarchapulco through my good friend Catherine. She lives in the same community as us, and she's actually the producer of Anarchapulco. And whenever she first told me about it, I was just like, wow, that sounds amazing. And so she invited me to come lead the family camp this year and to share in Game of Village with the broader community. It's a program that we offer here at Greenbrier, and it felt like a really aligned opportunity, and I was really excited to take part in it. So once we got there, it ended up being even more special than I could imagine. Not just leading it, but being able to connect with families from around the world. I met many people that shared in my core values, and my children met many friends from all around, and it was just a beautiful experience, especially being in Mexico. It's gorgeous there, and we had a lovely time. I'm really grateful for all of it and for everything that it opened up for us and for the connections that were made and the time that was spent there.
Thank you. And How would you describe the family camp to someone who has not been there this year?
Well, so the family camp was, first of all, families and being a parent within the freedom community really encompasses a lot of freedom. And there's freedom to explore, freedom to choose the activities that you want to do. It's not like it's overly scheduled. I've spoken many, many years at different homeschooling conferences where there were family camps, and the activities were scheduled and rigid and signed up, and people that the participants, the children, the young people were forced to enroll in this and do that and stick to a schedule. And that to me is really counterintuitive to a growing young person who is exploring who they are. And again, the family camp really understood this in such a way that there was a freedom and a wide range of activities, and some were facilitated, some were, everything was supervised, but where facilitation was needed, the facilitation was there. There was also room for free play. There was lots and lots and lots of options, and that to me was wonderful. And everybody that was on staff understood this. There was not this sense of coercion in any way. And I really, I honor and I thank the creators of the family camp for keeping such a keen eye on this as a main focus. It's facilitated, it's safe. There are boundaries in terms of what you can and cannot do, right? In terms of, if you're here and you're here with your family, yeah, we're not going to harm another person, and we're going to be cognizant of everybody's personal space, but we're not going to force you to do anything. We're going to create opportunities for you to thrive and explore and even fail, which is such an amazing part of growing and learning and being free.
Yes, so I would describe family camp this year as really alive and really child-led. It was a space where they could follow their curiosities and their interests, and they would naturally take the lead on their projects, and we were there as guides or facilitators. The kids spent a lot of time creating, especially through the Game of Village game. It was a huge hit, and they got really into designing their own world, building the infrastructure, community spaces, their own homes, their own tiny people, and bringing their ideas together collaboratively and immersing themselves in imaginative play. There was a lot of flexibility and open-ended time, which made it feel relaxed, and it flowed really smoothly. They would move between swimming, playing games, or just being together without any rigid schedule. And really the best moments came from the games that they made up themselves. We also had a variety of talks. Speakers would come in and share their topics with the whole family, and also have the children involved voluntarily. So sometimes the children would go off because they were so immersed in their own world, but the parents got to connect and sit together in a circle and share about parenting, life, health, wellness, really a variety of topics. And we also had just a great time. They loved the games that were brought in, especially Laine's. The kids got really into it, especially a game that she brought called Werewolf. It added a really fun social dynamic, and it had the children really engaged. Connecting and learning from Laine this year, for me personally, was amazing. Her experience and the energy she brought to the camp was wonderful, and a lot of the other volunteers, they had so much knowledge to share, and it was really just a wonderful time.
Our view. I'll go round the bend and I'll come back again for that good old Mountain Dew. Woo-hoo.
So in its full form, Game of Village is an open-ended, child-led learning experience where children can come together. They get to design, imagine, and build a miniature village. So usually it's at least a 5-week program, and here at Greenbrier we have it as a year-long program. So I really had to condense it to make it fit in the time frame that we had for family camp. And they had 5 days and they got so much done. I was very impressed. And I feel like everybody felt very accomplished at the end. We even had to pull out the second drop cloth to expand the town. And every person had their home, they had their person, they had their role. We had power lines connecting the homes. They built roads. They even built a swimming pool with a slide. It was amazing. And because the game isn't tightly scripted, the outcomes really are shaped by the kids' imaginations. And just like in real life, it's full of invention, surprise, even personality clashes, which they were able to learn and grow from and come up with creative solutions and also work on their problem-solving skills. At this year's family camp, Game of Village was one of the standout experiences, in my opinion. I think that families saw how deeply the project pulled the kids into their imagination, and they also got to learn along the way while collaborating with their friends. And so the game, it naturally blends creativity, teamwork, real-world thinking, and negotiating, planning, playing with purpose. It's a really incredible hands-on learning experience. It kind of became like a shared language for the camp, something that the kids, they could talk about, they could return to, they could connect over, and it was a really incredible time.
Why freedom movements and conferences like this, like Anarchapulco, why it's important with the families to be involved and not just like grown-ups gathering and sharing the knowledge
Well,
and ideas?
I think it's so important for the entire family to be involved, and I'll tell you why. Um, many years ago, when conferences around this were just focused on the adults, there seemed to be a separation between, freedom and sovereignty in the adult's life. But when they went home, they were still functioning in an authoritarian paradigm. And all of the concepts and theoretical ideas around anarchy were not being expressed through every point of their life. And this gives a wonderful opportunity to allow families, and not only, I'm going to talk about from the children's perspective in a moment, but families who are stepping into freedom for the first time as a concept and understanding that this vibrates through every part of their life. So how do we create a relationship, a connection that is non-coercive, that is consent-based? How do we struggle when we want to keep our children safe and we don't want to be in a coercive engagement or relationship with them? And these are natural things that we must explore in the freedom movement. And if we don't have a community around us that are challenging the norms of conventional parenting, we feel like we're totally alone. So it's important for the parents to be able to find community with other parents as they start deschooling. And that's a term that we use in the unschooling world. When we start kind of letting go of those oppressive belief systems that we've been indoctrinated with just by virtue of being in the world. Like, we live in the world, and most people understand that parents, the role of parents is to, tell their children, fill their children up with their values and force them to be a good person. When that kind of coercive relationship is really equal to being an authoritarian dictator. We need to stand back and understand what freedom looks like in our families. We need to have community and understand the big feelings that come up when we are transforming the way that we parent. We need to be in community. We need to understand that other people are faced with the same challenges, and creating a space where freedom is just a natural part of being a kid is actually supported. And the adult facilitators understand this. It creates a very wonderful community for the children themselves.
So you both are mothers, um, and I guess Laine, your kids or kid is quite a grown up right now. Is that true?
It's
Yeah.
true. True.
And Miley, you have still some really young kids around. For you, like Laine, you already mentioned the kind of your way that you have always been an anarchist. And of course, I don't know your story about how it was, how easy or difficult it was to be an anarchist in the education of your. How many kids do you have?
I'm the parent of one child
Yeah,
who now is an adult. Yeah.
yeah. And as you already mentioned, these changes that we as parents need to make or need to understand that are important to make when we are trying to give the best to our kids. So what would you say, what's like when you have been raising your kids, what has been like the main qualities or the knowledge or the skills that you have felt are really important for them to have in their lives later?
Like,
So, when it comes to raising my children, the qualities that I value most are curiosity, a love of learning, deep connection to nature, and a connection to self. I want them to be able to follow their own questions, to explore and truly experience the world around them, to think for themselves, and to feel grounded in who they are as an individual. You know, connection to nature gives them a sense of belonging, and connection to the self helps them move through life with confidence. And I feel that it really is a foundation for a life that's meaningful and full of discovery.
later. So I think going back to the roots, I raised my son in partnership. And that was a radical shift from the expectations of society. Ugh. Society, like I said, expects you to raise your child with a fist, do this and be this way and follow the rules. And I really rejected that because I rejected those kinds of systems in my own life. There was no way that I was going to become that person and raise my child in that way. So since I personally did through my own sovereignty, chose not to participate in systems that were very authoritarian, there was no way I could be that. So, partnership was the first and foundational quality of raising my son. Um, Along with that came a lot of desire and practice in communication and really understanding and developing a dialogue with our inner worlds became one of the most important things in our partnership. And for us, it was very, very important because our story is a little unique. When my son was 9, I took him out of school. He was in a Montessori system, and we decided that we were going to travel. We were going to travel for 1 year, which never ended, and that was 17 years ago. And we've been around the world many, many times. But from age 9 to 21, we lived together in partnership, traveling around. We've been to more than 50 countries. We developed 2 businesses together. And the main theme of partnership was the foundation through all of it. We were partners in everything, including, finances, decision about finances, where we were going to go, how long we were going to stay there, the way that we were going to address life. And partnership by itself really became kind of like a guiding light to how we became able to live in such a way. what partnership requires is understanding that each person has different roles, but none is greater than the other. My role as the parent was to protect him, was to provide the income and to be the adult around certain, situations. But it didn't mean that that had more weight and value to his opinions. He had great roles to fulfill, like being the curious one and the learner and leading by curiosity and all of these other things. He also had some very specific desires, and that taught me a lot. But it also taught me that being able to communicate and to understand our inner worlds became one of those foundations that was so necessary to understanding how we were walking together side by side in this planet. So when I work with teenagers now, and when the work that I did at the family camp, it was really about cultivating those relationships with everybody that was there. I had, there weren't a whole lot of teens, but I had some tweens that just loved some of the games that we were facilitating, and they wanted to then participate by becoming the leader of this game. We were playing werewolf, and they wanted to create the deck, and they wanted to be um, the host, the narrator. And when they got stuck, only when they asked for help, they would ask me to come in and co-create this narration with them in this particular game. And understanding that give and take and letting people walk their own path, even in this small example of sharing what this particular game looked like. Some of these young boys that wanted to be the leader, they kind of failed, and they weren't able to tell the story and understand some of the nuances and lead the group. And so they pulled me in. Come on, Laine, help me with this bit. All right, come on, I'll help you with this bit. And that was a beautiful moment of realization. You can't push somebody into learning. You can have this side-by-side experience. And as the adult facilitator, your role and my role and everybody's role that was working in the family camp was to walk side by side with each of the participants. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like really great. And I can say that it feels much more easier when one is away from home, at least when, as you mentioned, that the community is really important. And I guess it's much easier also what I have experienced when the people when the families come together at the family camp. They have, of course, different experiences and different ways of doing things, but still there is this unity of sharing quite alike values and understanding what is important both for the parents and kids. And I feel it sometimes can be much more different when the family goes back home, and if they don't have this community that share the same values as you, for example, mentioned how you were doing with your kids or your son, that the friends that the kid have at home has totally different experience. They are, for example, going to, as we can call it, ordinary school, and being used to feeling that school and learning is something really boring and it's not fun. And then they are probably sometimes kind of escaping, especially nowadays, maybe into video games, and then kind of losing interest in other activities. What would you suggest to the families like these that are kind of getting inspired and having this a wonderful experience at the, for example, Anarchapulco conference, and then going back and feeling like, oh, unfortunately, we kind of live in this place where there are many nice things, but still we feel like a lack of this possibility to integrate these qualities and values totally in the everyday life, because a world around them are totally different. Do you have any suggestions for the families how they could do
Yeah, of
things?
course. Of course, I think, community first starts within your own family. And once you develop a strong family culture, a family culture that is based on core values, you then have the opportunity to then make decisions based on those core values. And if you know that you're a family that, I don't know, that you value justice, or if you value, whatever the value is, it could be community, it could be, kindness, it could be playfulness, it could be any number of things. But as a family, understanding what those values are, you then can make decisions about things that you can do that are in alignment as a family with your family's core values. And it's pretty simple. And it doesn't have to be creating, community with only freedom-minded folks, or creating community with only unschoolers. It could mean that you're a family that values playfulness, kindness, and some sort of excellence in sports. And that might bring you as a family towards doing, I don't know, some martial arts together, and finding other families that do these things. So you don't have to seek out specifically freedom-minded folks in order to have the kinds of engagements and relationships and communications and connections that really light your family up. But you've got to know who you are first, and you've got to know who you are as a family. And even if you are an anarchist or a freedom-minded person and you don't bring that into your family culture, if it's just you and your freedom ideas and philosophy living in your head, but you're not bringing that into every aspect of your life, including your children's lives and your everybody that's surrounding you, then you're not being congruent with your values. And it's about getting in alignment there and finding what the motivating core values of your family culture is, and then seeking those opportunities. And I'll tell you, the clarity of knowing who you are as a family and expanding those values into each member of your family and into everything that you do will change your life into a more freedom-minded experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna keep this conversation short.
Yeah.
It has been really great to hear all these everything that you have told us so far. One of the last questions. Is there any work or project that you would like to tell about our audience that you do aside of the Anarchapulco conference?
Sure. I run retreats. I've been running retreats for teenagers for about 11, 12 years now. I have a company that I co-founded with my son called Project World School. And we have a trip coming up in October for a group of teens. If you have a teen or a tween that's interested in traveling to Mexico, it's going to be in Guanajuato, Mexico. And we're going to be here for Day of the Dead. We're going to get involved in all of the traditions. We're going to make ofrendas. We're going to become Katrinas and make costumes and all of these wonderful things. So if you have a teen who might be interested in that, Project World School, go to projectworldschool.com. And if you are also interested in teaching or having your teens or tweens learn skills for mental health, I have 2 courses coming up in April, and you could find all the information out about that at Transformative Mentoring for Teens. And I've taught probably over 200 teens these powerful tools for mental health. And you can find all of hundreds of testimonials on my website. You'll be impressed. They're really incredible stories of transformation. And your audience will love to hear that I do accept crypto as payment.
Yes, that's really great.
So other than the work that I do within my community, which would be running the garden club for toddlers, doing the social media, the blog posts, and the coordinating of the volunteers, I love to write and share about our family's adventures and my reflections on my blog. It's abalosfamadventures.com. So recently I wrote a post about our experience at Anarchapulco and, you know, the connections that were made and the lessons that we carried home. And I would love to share that with you. So the title is called "The Village is the Way Forward." We are home again. Home in the way that only comes after you've wandered. When your feet touch the soil that you know, the birds sound familiar again, and the rhythm of your days settles back into place. We returned from Mexico, where we spent time immersed in something that felt both wildly expansive and deeply grounding at the same time. Anarchapulco. For those who haven't heard of it, Anarchapulco is a gathering of thinkers, creators, freedom seekers, and alternative visionaries from all over the world. People come together to question the systems that we've inherited and imagine new ways of living. Economically, spiritually, socially, and communally. This year I got to lead Family Camp, gathering with families and children from around the world to share Game of Village, a creative community-building program we offer at Greenbrier. Kids creating with new friends, parents exchanging ideas about homeschooling, education, intentional living, and the shared desire that so many of us feel to raise children closer to the earth and closer to one another. Watching those connections happen so quickly reminded me how natural community actually is. Humans are wired for it, and in a world that feels uncertain, that truth feels more important than ever. During our time in Mexico, there were also difficult moments unfolding in the wider world around us. News moving quickly, global tensions rising in different places. It was a reminder of how fragile many of the systems that we rely on can be. While in Mexico, there were moments that made the reality of the world feel very present, the beauty and the complexity existing side by side. Travel has a way of making those contrasts very visible. You can be standing in breathtaking beauty, music spilling into the streets, while at the same time being aware that the world is moving through big shifts, and somehow both truths exist at once. It was one of those reminders that the times we are living in call for something deeper than comfort. They call for community. When systems feel shaky, relationships become the pillar. Being surrounded by families from all over the world made that truth feel so clear. People from different cultures, languages, and backgrounds, all arriving with the same instinct, to gather, to share knowledge, and to build networks. In the future, it feels less intimidating when you're not facing it alone. And then we came home, back to our little pocket of community, where the early signs of spring are waking up everywhere. This week, the kids discovered wild cleavers growing again, that sticky spring plant that clings to everything it touches. Soon their hands were gathering bunches of it, and before long we were weaving tiny crowns. Cleaver crowns accompanied by wild spring tea. After traveling across the world and having all of these big, expansive conversations about the future of humanity, we were back home, in the garden and sitting in the sunshine with children, weaving crowns out of wild plants, and somehow it felt like the same lesson. Children instinctively know what matters: presence, play, belonging. The garden beds are waking up too, seeds finding their places in the soil, new plans for the season forming. Living in community has a way of making those dreams tangible. sharing visions for a life that feels a little more human and a little more rooted. Travel expands the mind while community roots the heart. And in times like these, the world seems to be reminding us how deeply we need both, to see the bigger picture and to plant our feet somewhere real. You can spend a month traveling, imagining new ways to live, and you can come home and weave crowns out of sticky weed with children on a Thursday morning. Both are sacred, and both are reminders that the future we hope for doesn't start in institutions or global systems. It starts in small circles, and children growing up surrounded by people who care for them. So, spring is here now. The same season that stirs seeds beneath the soil also stirs something inside the human spirit. A beautiful invitation to grow, to gather, to build something meaningful together. Maybe that means traveling somewhere that expands your perspective. Maybe it means planting deeper roots right where you are. Maybe it means finding your people and beginning to weave the kind of community that will carry you through whatever seasons the world brings next. Because more and more, it feels like this simple truth keeps revealing itself. We need each other, now more than ever.
If you would think about coming back next year, is there something that you would like to change or wish for the families to be, I don't know, braver for, or anything at all?
Something that I think would be really neat, that I would like to see at family camp next year, would be a space for skill sharing opportunities where families can bring their passions and interests to the camp and hold voluntary classes. This could be anything from, crafting, music, storytelling, even a game that they love. And the beauty of this is that it would hold space for a collaborative learning environment where everyone can be both teacher and student. And, they'll get to explore new interests or maybe discover a hidden talent, and we get to learn through connection and through doing.
Yeah, I would hope that next year brings more teens and more tweens. I had prepared lots of improv and a lot of play that was age appropriate, of course, developmentally and age appropriate. We didn't have a big group of teens and tweens this year. So we had quite a bit of tweens, but the teens can they need to be involved. They need to be invited to these sorts of events. They're powerful. Teens are starting to individuate, and they're starting to recognize idealistically who they are and what lights them up. And being active in an environment of freedom is such a powerful experience. So I do invite you, if you are a family that does have tweens and teens, come next year with them. Don't leave them at home. Bring them. And we're going to have lots and lots of activities designed for them, I hope. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. It was lovely to talk to you. Peace, love, and anarchy, everyone.
Palm trees whisper, freedom in the breeze. Oceans hymn, no chains, no pleas, no rulers, no kings, no scripts to recite. Burn the old book, let the phoenix ignite. Rebirth on the sand, where the rebels convene. A Genesis scene, mind sharp and keen. Dollars to dust, trust in the soul. Anarchapulco, where we break the mold. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New dawn, breaking under open skies. No masters, no limits, no chains to choke. This is freedom's fire, Anarchapulco spoke. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New dawn, breaking under open skies. No masters, no limits, no chains to choke. This is freedom's fire, Anarchapulco spoke. Beach bonfires start spark like flint. Ideas ricochet, no permission, no stint. Borders dissolve, minds expand. Every soul sovereign, every mind grand. No contract signed, just a handshake truth. Ancient wisdom reborn in the fountain of youth. Rules crumble like castles at high tide. Revolution lives where the dreamers reside. Golden horizon, the birth of the free. Echoes of laughter, the waves decree. Freedom is anthem, a beat in the chest. Anarchapulco, where the restless rest. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New
with performing artist Ayame.